What's going on, you guys, and welcome back. It's your boy Eileo here. As promised, we have the Scheherazade video. Now, Scheherazade is our newest Nat 5 in the game, and she just dropped a little bit earlier today. And at the moment, I believe she's only available through the Primo Festival. So she's a bit hard to get just because you have to spend a minimum like 8.2 thousand gems. Not 8.2, but 8,200 Asher gems to be guaranteed one. I'm not sure if you can pull one before that, but you're at least guaranteed one during the festival. Obviously not of your choice, but here she is. Let's go ahead and check her out, though. Quick analysis of her design, though. She's pretty cool. I definitely like it. It's something that isn't like monster-ish that I can see so far. It's more humanoids, which I'm totally down with. But let's go ahead and check her out. So Scheherazade, her fire type at least, is a balance type, and at level 60 she has 33,000 HP, 3.2k attack, and then 2.7k defense. Balance type, once again, pretty solid stats right there. Nothing groundbreaking, but boys, like an over 3k stat for a balance type is a smiley face in my book, and her HP's breaking 30k too. That's pretty decent. Let's take a look at her skills, though. So she comes in with Courageous Strike on her 3-star skill, and then damage reduction on her 5-star skill. As I said before in the Discord yesterday when her skills were leaked, because this is the internet, she's essentially the fire version of Wood and Kidu. So she does have her uses, and I was talking with Luca over there in Discord as well, and I'm not a super duper big Titans expert. I'm getting there. It just takes time. But he said that he could definitely see fire Scheherazade. I feel like I'm just butchering her name already. But he could definitely see that fire She would be able to replace one fire shinobi in the back lane only. So I definitely do take his advice, because my damage in Titans is abysmal compared to him, and he has just a lot more knowledge in that. So this is a possible replacement for shinobi. Is it going to be like set all replacement for all the shinobis? I don't know. I don't think so, but it is what it is. And then for the skill books, Courageous Strike gets a 25% damage boost, and then damage reduction also receives a 25% damage boost. So nothing super duper crazy right there. I think damage reduction as it stands today, or at this point in time, is perfectly fine. And yeah, it's nothing super duper amazing. I need to also do the skill book thing that one of you guys in the videos had said before. But let's go ahead and move on to the water version of her. Alright, we are back over here with Water Scheherazade. Try saying that 5 times fast. She's a defender type, coming in with nearly 28k HP, 2.8k attack. What? And 3.5k defense. That's a bit of a weird champ. That's... what? Defender type, and her attack is almost as much as the balanced. Okay. Interesting. But anyways, stat-wise, she's perfectly fine. Her attack is kind of high to be a defender. I mean, her HP pool isn't super duper amazing, but that attack is a bit weird. Let's go over here and take a look at her skills real quick. So she's coming in with morale boost for her 3-star skill, which gives her a 100% chance to recover 40% of her own SP, meaning that she can get her 5-star skill off pretty reliably. And with that attack stat almost breaking 3k alone, I'm pretty sure with a trinket at the very minimum, she's going to be able to break 3k easy, and she shouldn't have any problems getting her SP up with an attack stat like that. And then for her 5-star skill, she has the new skill called Immunity. Immunity removes all negative effects from allies and grants them immunity for 2 turns. While immune, they will not be affected by negative effects. So essentially, she is an SP battery that can get immunity off super duper quick. Now, the issue that comes up with immunity is obviously it's a PvP skill. Without a doubt. I mean, I could see possible use for it in PvE, but it's definitely a PvP skill without a doubt. And the issue with immunity is this: if you're running a crowd control composition like I do, even though I just do PvP on auto, if she can get this off, all the mons that are still alive basically have 2 turns free of just no CC unless you're just bringing raw damage. So you could circumvent this with SP siphoning her so she can't get her morale boost off, but that would also require playing manually, which you got to be a little bit more active with which I don't care. I never place 100 in PvP anyways. Well, top 100, but there's a way around immunity, but there's also not a way around it, because if someone was to throw her on a Bastion set in theory and she was able to get this off by the second turn, well, there's pretty much nothing you can do unless you can somehow CCC all, well, not CCC, but unless you could CC other mons on that team for that turn. But once immunity comes up, it sounds like it's going to dispel all those, so they're going to be back on the second turn. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I could definitely see how she could be just as desirable as the fire one for those that are interested in PvP. Alright, so next up is Wood Scheherazade, who is a tank type coming in with 43k HP, 2k attack, and then 2.8k, nearly 2.9k defense. Plenty of HP on her. Attack is absolutely abysmal. Defense is workable, and obviously being a tank type, you're not really there for damage. You're just there hopefully to just be annoying and for self-sustain. But let's take a look at her skills real quick. So she comes in here with defense down for her 3-star skill, 80% chance for 3 turns, which is pretty nice. That's a pretty high probability, and that lasts for a pretty long time. And then for her 5-star skill, she has 80% chance to weaken an enemy for 2 turns. Now, thoughts on this is, once again, is another Titans mon, but in theory, depending on how her animation speeds are, she could possibly end up replacing Wood Fibian. So you would run however many, Wood Titan mon setup that you have, but you would basically just replace your Wood Fibians with Wood Scheherazade if things work out in terms of her animation speed. I think that's the general consensus at this point in time. Will further testing be needed? Absolutely. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's a hefty upgrade, because Weaken is a super duper great skill, and I could definitely see this being put to use fighting Water Titan. And for her skill bucks, her defense down receives a 20% damage boost, and it goes to 90% for 3 turns, which 80% is already pretty good. And then Weaken gets a 20% damage boost, and that goes to 90% as well, but it stays at the 2 turns, I do believe. Yep, so they both go to 90 for 3 turns and then 90 for 2 turns. That's still pretty good, even though I think, to be fair, I think they're already pretty decent. But for the Titan guys out there that just love Titans, if you got the books, I'm sure that you'll probably end up booking her up, because you get a little bit more damage and a bit longer probability of your debuffs going off. Up next though, we have Light Scheherazade. She is an attacker type coming in with 28k HP, 3.8k attack, and then 2.7k defense. Plenty of attack up there. HP and defense are acceptable as an attacker type. They all can't be super duper tanky or super duper like buff in terms of defense. So I mean, I'll take it. It is what it is. I would definitely take that. Let's go over here and take a look at her skills real quick. So for her 3-star skill, she has Shock, which grants 80% chance to shock a target for 2 turns. And then she comes in with attack up for 2 turns on her 5-star skill, which is a bit of a weird setup, because not only do I feel like light mons, especially like Nat 4s and Nat 5s, just have this obvious, just incredible, uninteresting spam of shock being applied to all of them, even though I understand that shock is a light mon only exclusive skill, but they all have basically shock on their 3-star skill. So this brings absolutely nothing to the table. I mean, her shock is great, but is this all that light mons are just capable of? Just shock? I mean, 80% shock for 2 turns is great, guys, but what I'm getting at is literally every light mon in the game just has shock on their 3-star skill. And the problem isn't the 3-star skill, it's when we get over here to the 5-star skill. She has attack up for 2 turns. Once again, I mean, that's great, but these 2 skills don't really coincide with each other, because shocking is used as damage / crowd control, while attack up is used just to raise everyone's damage up. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it's a bit underwhelming, because you could use it in certain situations, like maybe if you wanted to do raw damage in PvP. But if the team that you're fighting has immunity up, then shock won't be applied, and yeah, you'll get more raw damage out of your attack up if you can get that off. But basically her 3-star skill is rendered useless. And then, I mean, I guess in a clan versus clan situation, this could be useful if you could like crowd control those mons and then get attack up for your entire squad. But I don't know. I just feel like this is a bit lackluster and it's not super duper useful from what I can think of so far, and I could be wrong with that because I'm always wrong with a lot of things in case you guys don't know. So feel free to leave a comment below if you guys think of any interesting ways to use Light Scheherazade, because I don't know, to me this type of moveset doesn't really lend itself to anything because it's just weird. But let's take a look at her books real quick. So shock goes to 25%, well 25% damage boost, and then shock also goes to 90% for 2 turns, which is great. And then attack up receives a 20% damage boost, and that one goes to, what was it, 3 turns? Yeah, 3 turns. It's just weird because I can't recommend bringing this Mon into Titans. I could recommend it in a PvP situation or maybe like a PvE situation, but it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. And then last but not least, we have Dark Scheherazade, who is a defender type, coming in with nearly 29k HP, 2.9k attack, and then 3.8k defense. Her stats are very similar to the wood one, I do believe. I think the wood one literally had like 1k less attack though, so her attack stat isn't anything to scoff at. Not saying that you should build her like full on DPS, but let's go ahead and take a look at these skills real quick. So for her 3-star skill, she has morale boost, 100% chance to restore 20% of allies SP when attacking, which is pretty good. 20% is a hefty amount, even though it's not as good as SP Siphon for Stealth. But if you're running a team composition where you have another morale booster that hits everyone with SP while she's attacking, hopefully she can get enough SP off, especially with her attack, to get that ball rolling. And then she comes in with immunity, which we read off of the water one, but this one lasts for 3 turns right off the bat versus 2 turns. So essentially she is the, well, she is the dark version of water Scheherazade. So that's interesting in itself because there's a lot less, I wouldn't say competition, but there's a lot less ways to damage a dark mon versus the water one, because we all know water RGB is kind of a bit lackluster in the PvP environment. So you do get kind of a benefit of having light mons if you're going to face a dark version of her. But the difference, the key difference to take away from here though is the morale boost, where this one isn't reliable in itself, but with the correct team composition, this could be a threat just as a water one is, because if she's able to get her immunity off, not to mention if the water one isn't booked up, this one already beats the water one out. In terms of my opinion, it requires a little bit more setup, but the payoff is just way more worth it, especially with her having a lot higher attack stat, even though she's not really there for that. So it's very interesting. Like, this, in my opinion, is probably the most worthwhile one, especially in terms of PvP, which is pretty nice. But let's take a look at her skill books real quick. So morale boost stays at 20%, but it gets a 30% damage increase, and then immunity stays at 3 turns, but this one also gets a 25% damage increase. So pretty hefty on the books, nothing groundbreaking. I mean, if you want to use her for damage for more SP production, I can understand that, but it's like, maybe I should just keep my books for something else. But that's pretty much the Scheherazade review, you guys. I keep just slaughtering that name because every time I see it, my brain is like, I want to pronounce that incorrectly. I'm pretty excited to have her in a game. It just sucks that the Primo Festival, or the Primo Festival, kind of came out of nowhere and stopped a lot of players in the face, because they've dumped all their gems in the Heroes Festival, and all of a sudden she appears up. But here's the favorite part of the video that you guys, for whatever reason, enjoy. In terms of the Scheherazade tier list, or what I would recommend the most, it really depends on if you're a PvP person or a Titans person. But in my opinion, I would say that Dark Scheherazade, if you're a PvP person, obviously is top dog. Dark Scheherazade would be number 1, and then I would say arguably Wood and Fire would be in 2, depending on what Titans teams that you have and where you could use those mons at in terms of just overall usage, depending on their animation. And then Water would be 3, and then Light would be number 5. Even though I know that we skipped one, I would argue that 5 is probably the worst one out of the bunch, which is kind of shocking, because usually the Light and Dark should be the cream of the crop. But in this situation, maybe I'm just not seeing it correctly. I don't think Light Scheherazade, not Zard, is anything amazing at all. But that's pretty much it for this, you guys. Feel free to leave a comment below about what you guys are excited about for her. Has anyone gotten lucky and pulled a dark version of her yet? Because I'm sure someone has and already has her somehow to Evo 3 because you just stockpiled Holy Gleams, because what else will you do in this game? And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.